Hello, hello, everyone. We are now live, and I believe we're going to see if Amber Friendly is seeing this now, and then she can join us.
Hey, what's up,
Hi!
Sonya?
So good to see
It's good
you.
to see you too. Oh my goodness.
You look wonderful.
Thank you. You too, gorgeous.
Oh, this is so nice. How's your Wednesday so far?
It's been good. I'm like running around a little crazy, but it's a gorgeous day. I can't complain. Um, I'll be honest, this is my first live stream because I'm, I guess an old person. I don't know.
I,
So I'm
hey,
like, wait, am I doing it right?
you are in good company. I only did my first live one last year and I felt like such a noob. And but it wasn't too bad. You did great.
Well, we're just getting started, so
Okay. But what I like about it is the nice thing is, we just might see a few little hearts kind
Mhm.
of like move up the screen and some people might message things. But otherwise, what I like about it is it feels like I'm just FaceTiming with you,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
totally.
And so, we got to be careful about that because it's not a private conversation, but it can feel private. It can feel like it's just you and me talking, and that's nice.
I won't tell your secrets, Sonia.
Dang. I'll just call you later and ask for those
Yeah.
secrets, okay? I'll get them one way or another. Well, I saw a friend post some photos from Valentine's Day in California. I was like, God damn it, of course you're on the beach. Of course it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well,
So,
some people, I mean, yeah, if you're like by the beach, yeah, it's just so idyllic. I can't complain too much. You know what? Actually, I'm not going to say anything about the weather. I'm from Chicago, so like I'm not officially not allowed to say anything about Southern. You know what I mean? I think it was like hailing somewhere, but I don't know. But
and a year ago today, we had the winter freeze down here.
hmm
So I am very happy to be wearing short sleeves. I'm going to just yell it from the mountaintops that it's not freezing. So certainly happy that I'm not complaining either. Well, I'm so glad you're doing this. So, one thing I'll just say is that this is kind of my first public thing that I'm doing since coming off of maternity leave.
hmm
So I just, I want to say thank you because you're kind of helping me um, get out of maternity leave. I'm supposed to return to work in less than 2 weeks.
hmm
And, putting on makeup is a feat of itself. And I get an A plus.
There you go.
And so, but that's sort of where I'm at right now, which is I just had a baby and I'm just trying to figure out how the heck do I, resume my passions as an
hmm
actor and as an acting teacher while having like an infant attached to my boob,
Right. Yeah.
that's an issue.
I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, not everybody has had a lovely baby like you have, but I think a lot of people are kind of in that spot right now. You know what I mean? Of kind of coming out of well, we're still in a pandemic, but just kind of coming out of a cocoon state. I think a lot of people sort of feel like, and
Right.
it's okay. My life is different now. Like, how do I live with this different status when the status quo has changed? You know what I mean? So I think you have that in common with a lot of people.
Yeah, one way or another, and
Mhm.
I think it's a cause for celebration, right? I think we
Right.
are feeling something shifting and, we can kind of come out and hopefully we are glorious butterflies,
hmm
because it's been a long, hard winter, right?
hmm
you know but you have something really wonderful to celebrate, which is this amazing nomination.
Oh yeah.
um
I'm like, yes.
so okay,
This
so
is-
I'm gonna back it up and then I'm gonna
yeah.
get back to the nomination. So first of all, Amber, and I've said this to you many times, but I like to repeat it because it's how I honestly feel. Amber is one of the reasons why I moved to California,
Mhm.
because when I was looking at grad schools, I came to UC Irvine, and Amber was already at UC Irvine, and I just was so impressed with everything about you, and you gave me such amazing advice, and you were so real with me. And I mean, you were just a big part of why I was like, yeah, I want to go to UC Irvine. And such a pragmatist, such a realistic person, and yet inspiring as well. And that just never stopped. So like, I came to grad school, I watched you teach, we became friends, and the rest is history. But then there's just so much more than that. After I started running Actor Studio of Orange County, you were like one of the first teachers who started teaching at the school.
Yeah.
You've been teaching there since like 2014, 2015.
Something.
Like,
Yeah, I
I
got you.
don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
know.
I just go like a few years, and then I'm like a few years. It
I
means
mean, it's coming on 10 years, Amber. Just so you're,
you're not supposed to say that out loud.
So, and the beautiful thing, so Amber has always been like a role model, I would say, for me, and in the midst of teaching at the studio, your career has been such a beautiful thing to watch. I remember watching your showcase at UC Irvine, and, I remember watching you sign with representation, and then I remember watching commercials. I still see you on commercials, right? And, and seeing you, oh God, what's that show with William H. Macy? The
Oh, Shameless.
I remember seeing you on Shameless, with Brett, being like, oh my God, that's Amber,
That's
and
awesome.
like lots of I remember your journey from like co-stars, and now you're on, like, you're you're a regular cast member and of the morning show, right? And then I remember you being on Frequency. I remember you on so many shows, and now you're a nominated actress for the morning show for, what is it, the drama ensemble, is that
Yes,
correct?
I'm a part of. So just to be specific, or to clarify, because I'm like, I don't want someone coming in and be like, "Excuse me."
And
I
no
am.
one's gonna do that.
I'm a recurring character. I'm a recurring character on morning show, guest star, recurring guest, and I'm a part of the ensemble. So I am. You see me in most of the episodes, and
Yes.
we're just nominated as an ensemble for best drama, best TV drama for the SAG Awards, which is amazing. And yeah, so so me and the whole crew get to go, and it's really
Wow.
exciting. I'm really excited.
I was a big fan of the first season,
Hmm.
and I watched, first definitely watched all of the second season, and I loved it. I loved it.
Oh, that's so great to hear.
I did, and I think that show is doing such an interesting thing with their storytelling, and I particularly love watching you and getting to see what you get to do. But I bet it must feel, because I think that actors know what it's like to be a part of projects that don't go well,
Of course,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, or to be a part of stuff that you're like, I don't like this, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Or this isn't good quality. What is my hair doing? This isn't good quality stuff.
Hmm.
So I wonder, what has been your experience? What has it been like being on the morning show and feeling the difference? What's the quality difference on the inside of feeling, I mean, it's a nominated show. This is a quality show. What does it feel like on the inside as an actor?
I mean, the first thing, honestly, and everybody has a different. For me, working on the show, the first thing when I think about the show is honestly just the people are great to work with. One of the great things about getting to share a nomination with the whole cast is that, I'm like, oh, we get to go and celebrate this together. you
Yeah.
know there are people who are huge megastars, but it's just like, overall, including them, and overall, honestly, it's a group of people that are just lovely to work with, you
Yeah.
know. So that's one. And sometimes you can have a rough set and still get some good product, but it's nice when like you don't hate showing up to work.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so just like with anything, sometimes it you know what I mean.
Yes.
But everybody is just great to work with, just personally, and then everyone is phenomenal actors, obviously,
Yeah.
are phenomenal actors. And I would say really one of the things that's interesting about that I've noticed, especially in the past like 5 years, I've worked on a few more shows where some of the stars are producers, and then particularly some of the actresses are producers and are like at the head of it. And that's one of the biggest things that I noticed
Hmm.
first working on morning show, because we have obviously we have a great team of producers, including Jen and Reese, Jennifer
Yes.
Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, and just like that, yeah, it just makes a difference.
Hmm.
They have such a strong hand in, kind of, obviously they're not the writers. We have a great writing team, but
Yeah.
they really have a lot of influence in where the story is going to go, and what they want to see. And you can really feel their experience on set and with that. And so just,
Wow.
these people who have been veterans for, in the industry for so long, and being women, doesn't necessarily, that's not automatic that it's going to, affect the DNA of a project. But in this case, I think it definitely has, you know.
Can you say more about that? I think that's fascinating, especially what is it about, you know, uh, what is it about, them being women that makes it different?
I mean, well, obviously, Reese has her own production, you know,
Right.
company, and a lot of the ethos behind that is to center,
Yeah.
stories that are focused on women. And you just don't, I mean, frankly, it's the storylines that they focus on. It's the
Yes.
cast, it sounds so silly, but you don't really see. I think it's starting to change, but I think there's still this kind of rigid idea in our minds that people have about like I don't know how to say it, but it's almost like people don't think that women are like actual people sometimes.
I
Like when you
agree.
watch shows, it's like it's just like they're like, oh, how do you write women? It's like, oh,
Yes.
well, you just like we're people. We're just people. So you just start there, and you just do the character stuff, and just like assume like that we're people. And and then that on that end too, there's not as many. It used to be an old adage of like, an actress's career would kind of end at a certain time, and there's still some truth to the not some truth, but I think that barrier is kind of breaking down, and there's just
Yeah.
such a richness of yeah, like we get to actually tell stories of adult women,
Yeah.
you, and there's so
Totally.
much fertile ground in there. Um,
Yes.
and so I really think that they have a huge hand in that. So
I love that. I love that. And then, yeah, and it seems like there are a couple of stories being told about adult women, like, the reboot for Sex in the City that's going on right now. You
mhm.
know what I mean? I think those stories were not told for before at all. Like them or not, you
Yeah,
know,
like every little fits and starts, obviously you have like
Golden Girls.
and you have great things like Golden Girls,
Yeah.
which by the way, I was just watching a thing. I didn't realize that the characters in Sex and the City and the characters in Golden Girls are supposed to be the same age.
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Their characters are the same age. That tells you a lot, right?
that tells you a
Like,
lot.
yeah, that like, yeah, Golden Girls is set in like a retirement home, and like a lot of humor is based or kind of based around that. I mean, Golden Girls is classic, right? Like
Yeah.
it's classic. It's just always going to be there. But yeah, that like, and then now we have Sex in the City, same age, but we actually see women that are out and about. They're, you know, yeah, we're now you think like, oh my gosh, they're the same age. Like that sounds crazy because they're so, you know, they're still out and about. They're still vibrant. They're still living their lives, still discovering,
There's
you
there's
know.
also something about the fact that the morning show, how would you even, you know, and I haven't thought deeply about this, so forgive me,
Mm.
is it seems very much, it's a, to me, it seems more like a drama than a comedy, although it's very funny,
Oh,
right?
oh yeah. No, no, no. Morning show. Yeah. I was comparing Sex and the City to Golden
But,
because we referenced them. But yeah,
right.
no, no.
But
Um,
it seems like, you know, one of the also the things that we're able to do now is you can, it seems like you can do a comedy about a bunch of old women because we can laugh at them,
mhm,
right? Whereas a drama about that centers on two middle-aged women, right?
mhm,
That is also still something that's new because
mhm,
it's only now that we're able to tolerate these characters. Do you know what I mean? Or that we're
mhm,
able to really look at these characters, you know?
mhm.
But the nice thing is that, but I mean, you know, the cast is nominated for a drama ensemble. It is a drama, but it does a beautiful blend. I think it's not just a drama. It's very, very light, you know, in its tone, you know. But that's a part
Well,
of,
well,
yeah. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Sonia.
No, no, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm figuring out what I have to say.
gonna say, I mean, I think that's just part of the great writing, you know. I mean, I think, yeah, it's definitely a drama. We deal with serious topics, you know, dealing with trauma and sexual assault, sexual harassment, um, uh,
Yeah,
uh, racism in the workplace, you
yeah,
know, even homophobia in the workplace, excuse me.
yeah.
um, um, you know, we deal with a lot of serious topics. Um, you know, I think, I mean, but you know, life isn't really just all drama or all comedy, you know, and I think that's the
Yeah.
part of great writing, frankly, is that there is, I mean, this sounds, have you ever like been at a funeral and gotten the giggles, you know,
Right,
or,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah,
It's
or,
absurd. There's something that strikes you that's absurd.
yeah, so there's just, we're not that, you know, you can't take human beings too seriously, you know, and even if you do, then that's when stuff gets even funnier because we're just ridiculous creatures.
And
um
that's one of the things I think that also you've always been very strong at is, first of all, you have and one of the reasons why you teach audition technique, and one of the things that I think you're so good at about teaching that is discerning style and genre, right? And that I think is very challenging. And I think I remember being in grad school and going, oh my God, I still can't tell what a comedy is, you
mm-hmm.
know? This is bad. I need to figure this out, you know, because if you can't tell that, if you can't read that in material, you're going to have some problems, you know. And you have been teaching me that, and I know you teach the students that, right? Is discernment and really, really good script analysis tools, so that you read that script, you can understand the intent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you've said it to me. I think I remember you told me when we spoke on the phone, because I started teaching audition technique at
Mm-hmm.
LSU, and I was like, hey, Amber,
Mm-hmm.
really quick, can you tell me how you teach audition technique? Because I got to teach it now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying, you were emphasizing about how comedy is so much more about the pacing, correct? When you're dealing with that material, or do you have any other tricks that you use?
I feel like there's a musicality often in comedy, you know, that there's often a rhythm to comedy, and that, no, it almost frankly feels kind of simplistic to just say drama and comedy, because even within both of those, even just saying comedy, I think that there are so many different types of comedy. Like think about yeah, us as individuals, as people, like we all have different senses of humor, you know, that like, you know, you can make a joke with one group of friends or to one friend, and then you make the same joke to somebody else and they're like, huh? And then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the somebody else thinks that it's the most hilarious thing, you know.
Right.
There is a certain amount of yeah, there's a certain amount of like just musicality I find, rhythm I often find, especially when you have like, especially when you have some of the more, I would say like network comedies are just a little more rigid structurally. In general, you know, there's so many different, there's almost as many different genres of comedy now as there are TV shows, which is
Wow.
but that's what I feel. But
Teacher, I have a question.
what's that?
I have a
Yeah,
question for you,
sure.
teacher. How do you, because I get this from students all the time, and frankly, I think I confront this insecurity too, is how do you negotiate wanting to play with musicality and rhythm and concerns about being fake or being over dramatic or being false? How do you negotiate between those two places?
I mean, it's a dance, you know. I mean, you have to start with, I mean, you start with whatever you're given, you know. So if you're
Mhm.
given the script up front, you know, you look at that and investigate that. If you're given additional information, like breakdowns of the other character and stuff like that, you
Mhm.
look at that. If you're given, if it's like, you know, if it's a show that exists or something that exists, then you look at that. Or if the other people have, if the writer has other works that are similar, you look at that. Um,
Oh,
so you have to start with that to kind of, I feel like you have to start with that with no expectations, just absorb. And then, you know, like say if you just have the scripts, like I feel like you have to look at that, really read it, and really read everything, you know.
mhm.
It's very easy, and I'm talking primarily about like, you know, television scripts and film scripts, but read everything, read everybody's lines, read the action lines, read everything, because a lot of humor is in physicality as well, and it's really easy to skip over that when you're just like going my line, my line, my line. um, and then it's about kind of the gestation period where like,
Mhm.
even if that's like an hour, whatever it is, of, you know, how do you balance putting in your own rhythm? It's like, okay, well, what are they trying to communicate? And then me as my own artist, then how would I express that? And my expression is going to be unique. It's going to be different than this person, than this person, and this person. But
Yeah.
but it has to be an interpretation of what they have given me. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it can't just be like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, whatever. And then that's literally you're just doing something else.
I love what you also just said is work with what you can get and what you have available to you. Like for example, I have the script, great. I can work with that. But if I can watch other samples of the show or other
Mm-hmm.
samples of that
Mm-hmm.
writing, I can get a sense of what I'm allowed to get away with. I
Totally.
can, right? Like what how long is this leash, right? What room do I have to play with? It gives me a sense of my play space, right?
And say in an audition setting, you know, and in an audition setting, sometimes they'll give that information to you, whoever is
Mm.
auditioning you, you know. um so like so just from an audition perspective, yeah, like if I'm working on something, and if it's a show where the production and them, they have like a pretty long leash in terms of like improv, for example,
Hmm.
let you know.
Yeah.
They'll
Okay,
they'll
love that.
they'll let you, they will let you know if they kind of want you to do like a little spin on it, or you know, if they tell you to do multiple takes, you know, and stuff like that, then that they'll kind of let you know if they, you know what I mean. um and then
Yeah.
some projects where, and then there are some people and writers and directors where it's like they're like, no, that
Yeah.
this, and I've had that too, where I've done something and they'll say, just so you know, this person wants it word for word. You know, this person wants it word for word. That's it. You know,
Right. Right.
and your parameters are, you know, you put your spin on it, but it's word for word.
Right.
Look at that punctuation, honor that punctuation, you know.
You know, one thing I'm at this new in my in my work right now, one of the main things I'm trying to focus on is playfulness and having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I'm trying to teach my students, as I'm also trying to teach myself, and I would love to hear your opinion on this, is especially when it comes to comedy, is that
Mm-hmm.
if you don't think that something about what you're doing is funny, then we're not working. Then this, like, you got to think that something in your choice there's got to be a tickle in there. And it's got to be truthful, right? There's got to be grounded in truthfulness, but especially if we need to, like, if there's a laugh there, there's got to be a part of you that goes, oh, this is gonna be.
Well, I would say yes, and
Yeah, I know. You're right.
yes, and that there are as such an actor. I was like, yes, and I'm so polite, but like I would say yes, and sometimes there are characters who are hilarious because they take themselves so seriously. I mean,
100%.
you
Yes.
know, I was just watching, reading, and you know, the whole thing recently with Jeremy Strong and that whole interview that he had, and it's
Uh-huh.
very clear that like way he plays his character, that he sees no humor in it. But then when you watch the show,
Oh yeah.
the way that other people react to him, it's like,
I
yeah, him
love
as the
I love
actor,
his performance.
yeah, he's him as the actor. He's like, I don't. There's nothing funny about this. But then
Yes.
but then when you
But
I
I also think that's him intuiting the tone of the show. You know, I think that there's something particularly about Succession that rides on the edge of tragedy. It does, right?
mm-hmm,
Like, this is disgusting that
mm-hmm,
these people live this way. And
mm-hmm,
it's right on the edge of drama, tragedy, and total absurdity, you
mm-hmm,
know?
mm-hmm,
And I totally agree with you, and I absolutely am obsessed with him and his performance. I just
mm-hmm,
find that so many actors hold themselves back because
mm-hmm.
they're afraid to try and to play. Do you know what I mean? For
Yeah,
fear.
yeah, fear is a big thing, and there's so many reasons why, you know, someone might be holding back, and yeah, you know what I mean.
It's it's like all of our work has to be the underpinnings here,
Mm-hmm,
right? And that actually brings me to the other question I wanted to ask you,
mm-hmm,
because the other beautiful thing that you do, not just, well, you teach audition technique frequently, as you do,
mm-hmm.
but you're also certified as a Seven Pillars acting instructor, you
Yes,
know?
yes,
And I'd love to ask you, because this is relevant for students, this is relevant for other teachers, this is relevant just for actors,
mm-hmm.
right? Is there anything about the technique that in particular you think is most useful to you? Now, that might be in the classroom, that might be on set, that might be
Mm-hmm.
even in life,
Mm-hmm.
that might be in all three. Is there anything in particular about the work that you learned at Seven Pillars Acting when you were doing that training, and or even when you're teaching it in the classroom, that you think has been most useful to you?
Well, you know, it's a great question. I think that, well, first off, I want to say that, you know, I've done a lot of training, you know,
Yeah.
and taught with a lot of different people, or sorry, you know,
Yeah.
as a student, whatever the other word is that's not taught, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. But
Yeah.
you know, and so what I do really appreciate about the Seven Pillars is that I feel like it really does synthesize and break down all the different elements, you know, in a way that it's like, oh, we can talk about this thing now. It's like, you know, oh, I've been aware of this, you know, and now that I put language to it, I can really address it and kind of tweak it as I need. So that's what I love about it. And it's really helpful as a teacher. It's really helpful to kind of articulate, and I think as for students, whether they have a lot of experience or not, I think that's helpful. Just putting the words to a
Yes.
lot of things that I think sometimes art can be, has a sort of magical quality to it. It does.
Yes.
And so, and so how do you become a craftsman with art? It's a tricky thing. And I think just putting the words to it, and not all training techniques do that. And I think that's really helpful. And when you identify something, then you can really cook with it. I would say that honestly, like the thing that I use to me, the one that's the most important
Yeah.
is circumstances.
Yeah.
It's just really the circumstances, like, and pretty much everything goes back to that. Contact
Yeah.
is always, being present and being available. That's always going to be, that's always something that's happening. But circumstances is like, okay, I can be present, I can have contact, but like circumstances is like okay, but it's not you.
Yes.
Circumstances is like, contact, it can get you, it's to me that is essential to being a live person, and then also the circumstances is, yeah, but this is fake. So what is the fake thing that we're doing? Meaning like, yeah, I'm not actually Amber. I'm actually somebody else. So I have to honor that and really be truthful to that. And so a lot of everything I do in my own acting is just, even just like reminders of like, oh, remember, it's like this time of day. And it's like, oh, yeah. And it's, and I almost feel like a lot of like, even with directors I work with, a lot of it is just really reminding actors like, oh yeah, don't forget, like and just clarifying the circumstances, it's like, don't forget, like, you guys just had a fight and da 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 da, and you've had this conversation so many times. Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just kind of working to make that more clear. And then like the pillars that come after that are in service of like, okay,
Yes.
so would it help if I, do I need to engage physically? Is there something in my physicality that I need to really engage to make that, to access that circumstance? Is it, what is it? Am I not really hearing and understanding what they're saying to me? Do I really have to look at that? But it's all, to me, it's the circumstance,
Yeah.
Contact is like, that's.
Contact to me is kind of like, for a dancer, it's bar work. You have to constantly, like, contact is get to the bar, do your drills, like, just practice. It's, you never stop practicing contact,
No,
practicing listening, it's your presence work,
yeah, yeah.
and
and
because
and you can job, and frankly, just as people, I feel like we have moments where we're like in it, we're like in contact and not, where we're like present and we're not, you know what I mean? And
yes,
kind of, it's a constant like, okay, now I'm here. Okay,
exactly,
now I'm here. You know what I mean? Similar to like if you're meditating, where it's like,
yes.
oh, I'm having this thought. Okay, cool. Now I'm coming back.
And I find that the other pillars can sometimes, especially if, like, sometimes, you work all the pillars and you can work
Right.
contact. And then sometimes the other pillars will go, God, I'm thinking about lunch, but I can also use circumstance to reconnect. I can go, wait a second, right? What is happening? And
Right.
sometimes that will kind of help me reassert my contact,
Yeah, absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know? But I'm so glad that serves you, because that's absolutely the thing that serves me too.
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, yeah, I find it grounding. Yes, grounding.
It could be grinding too. Yeah.
I'm like, but yeah, it can be grounding. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it literally is just, hey, don't forget, you didn't sleep last night. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes.
It
It doesn't take much, does it? Sometimes it can feel overwhelming, but it really doesn't. It can be just a morsel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. Oh,
Agreed.
we just got a question.
Oh, cool.
I've had auditions that request for talent to act smaller on audition notes, specifically on self-tapes. How would one go about doing that?
Acting smaller.
Yeah.
I mean, That's so interesting. Well, I'm trying to be more specific than interesting because I was going to say that sometimes smaller can be kind of like that can mean a lot of different things to different people. What
Yeah.
what my guess is what they might mean is it might be a little more subtle, you know, um, uh, that imagining that the camera is this close as opposed to the camera is on the other side of the room. You
Yeah.
um, that trust that like if you're right here and you do the thing, you don't really have to do as much to communicate. That if a camera
Right.
is like right here, if it's super close up, you really don't have to do a lot. You just have to almost think the thought, and it can come across through your eyes, you know.
Perfect.
So that I think something like that, like a note, like do it smaller, is
Yeah.
going to manifest itself differently for different people. Um,
Yeah.
and it's gonna look, and frankly, I mean, it's gonna look different on different people. Like I know that I have a really expressive face, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so like my version of, and just now, just
Yeah.
that's just faces. So smaller to me is gonna look, and then there's some people that constantly they always look stoned, you know what I mean? And that's just like their vibe, you know what I mean? Where they're just
Yeah.
always just like, hey, you
And so they
know?
kind of need to bring it out a little bit more, right?
Yeah, yeah. So that's my guess is that
Yeah.
for that particular person, that's what what they're asking for. What I would if what I would recommend in that circumstance, in that I'm trying to stay away from words that are pillar words. But in that situation, what I would recommend is maybe if they're given that note, and if it's like a live audition, I might like, they say like smaller, or give you a note, an adjustment, and you're not quite sure, then maybe like take the adjustment, then like do a little bit of it, and then say, is this what you mean?
Ooh,
Just to
good idea.
clarify. You can't, sometimes you can't, don't always have that opportunity to ask for feedback like that, but that might be, that can often be helpful, is like,
That's a good idea.
even do another take or do a little bit of something and say, is this what you mean by smaller? And then you guys can be on the same page.
Amber, that's wonderful. And I know that who asked that question, and I know that that's going to be very helpful for them.
Oh,
So thank you
good.
for answering.
Yeah.
We don't have a ton more time, and I
Mhm.
still wanted to be able to chat. We gotta speak in the summertime,
Mhm.
and as always, I like to go to you and bring to you kind of like whatever is kind of bothering me in the moment with acting or acting
Mhm.
training. And at LSU, we had just spent the whole past year doing really, I think, really wonderful and very, very intensive EDI training, lots of really, really intensive anti-racism training.
Mhm.
And it was really good. I would say I'm really proud of the work that the School of Theater has done, and they're still doing. We just hired someone to be an administrator for what we're calling DEI. They changed sort of the orientation of the letters for diversity, equity, and
Gotcha.
inclusion. But to me, it's what I think that we're trying to do is not make this performative
Mhm.
change, because I think that what we've been really focusing on is that this is very, very deep work that we need to do, because
Mhm.
there's very, very deep trauma and
Mhm.
very, very deep systemic issues here, right?
Mhm.
Of systemic white supremacy in our institutions of performance,
Mhm.
in acting training. And when we spoke in the summer, it was just very helpful to hear your perspective,
Oh, I'm
because
glad.
you just you shared your experiences, and they were really eye-opening for me.
Mhm.
And I just, first of all, I want to thank you for that. And you know I mean, what if you had any message for actors of color who are coming into the industry now? You know, I don't know if you have like necessarily advice for them, but what do you think the state of affairs is right now in acting training, or in as they enter into the industry?
The state of affairs. In terms of,
Or what is, there's two questions, like how should our students of color navigate this? And also, how can we as educators better support our students of color? You could choose whichever way you want to answer that. It's a
yeah,
big question.
it is. I would say trying to be as succinct as possible. For performers of actors of color, and each, I know it's simple and easier to say like BIPOC and people of color and whatever, but like to get specific, my as a Black woman, my experience is going to be different than an Asian actor, an Asian man or woman or non-binary person, that they're
Yes.
experience different things, that the expression of that of
Yeah.
the experience of racism is going to be, has its own little quirks.
Yes.
And then even when I say Black woman, as like a brown skinned Black woman versus a light skinned Black woman versus
Yes.
a dark skinned Black woman, I have different experiences.
Yeah.
What I will say is that honestly, what I find encouraging in terms of the industry is that, look, seeing people in front of the camera is really great, but that only means so much if there aren't people behind the scenes, the writers, the directors, the producers who reflect that diversity. Because there's only so much that just an actor in front of the camera can do,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's you are being paid to say the words that and tell the story that or that's what you're there for. And so I feel like now I'm seeing more, there's really more of a concerted effort to kind of to bring, I don't even know, I would say inclusion. I don't even know if it's just diversity, because, there's been a wide variety of people since the beginning of storytelling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is that some people have been shut out from certain opportunities.
Yeah.
And so, it is still the case that when I go, to places, it's mostly homogenous, and the crews are mostly homogenous, but that's changing more and more.
That's
And I
good.
just want to see, even in the last like 5-6 years, I've noticed that it's changing. And so I want to just kind of give like a hey, like to somebody that's just coming in, like, hey, I feel you. Like
Yeah.
I know what that feels like. And there are more people who are trying to be more mindful of like, hey, how can we make this a more inclusive space? How can we just honestly just up our game in terms of storytelling? Because that's
Yeah.
frankly what it's about. If if you have the same person, the same group of people telling stories, even if it looks like on the front of the camera that it looks diverse, but it's behind the scenes, everybody is the same. It's like, you're going to come up with the same answers. you
Yeah.
know the question is, how do we tell a great story? And if you talk to the same people, you're going to get the same answer, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really, it's like making the stories more authentic, just adding that little juice, just making the writing better, making the
Yeah.
performances more real. Um, so really, my words are words of encouragement. I feel you. I know there are going to be times where you're going to feel isolated, just like, as any person of color going into any field. I think in America, I'll speak to America because I'm American.
Yeah.
That a lot of times it can be really isolating in professional settings.
Yeah.
But know that there's a lot of people that are creating more opportunities, especially with television, especially, all the different streaming services. There's so many more options in terms of projects that are being made. That said, because when you look at like the industry, and I'm just looking, for example, at television, because I'm trying to narrow it down,
Yeah.
because of that, because there's so many projects. I think there's more than 600 scripted television shows that are supposed to be in production this year alone.
What? That's incredible.
It's insane, right? And so those projects will go on for like X amount of months, right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of steer a ship. It's like that's a small ship, right? That's a small like boat. I don't boat, but that's a
Yeah.
small, it can make quick turns. Now something like an institution, like a university, that's a much larger ship,
Yeah.
right? it really is a much larger ship. And so that's going to take a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
you're just not going to see, you're just not going to see, that's going to be like sustained changes over a period of time before you're really going to see those differences, just because it's just a larger ship, and it's just, you know what I mean? Um,
Totally.
um, I'm trying to think of something specific about like for teachers. I would, oh, it's so hard. I have a lot of empathy for people who are specifically in training right now. And I know everybody as teachers, you know, we want to help as much as possible. And it's important to understand that even with all of our knowledge as teachers, that there are blind spots, that there really are blind spots. And frankly, sometimes it isn't enough just to say, oh, I have blind spots, and then just to keep on moving. Sometimes it really is, you know, I'll use this example. I sometimes it's more about just listening.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a space once, and we were, you know, there was, I say like 4 or 5 actors of color, and then the rest of the class was white, and the teacher was white. And they were having a conversation about like essentially race in the industry. And the conversation went on for like 10 minutes, and nobody clocked that all of the actors of color were looking at each other going, that doesn't sit right, going, that's not my experience. And everyone kept just literally talking over. And one of the guys even said, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not, but nobody, including the teacher,
Wow.
didn't clock that they were, because they were talking about, oh, it's so hard to do this and this and that. You know, this is what race is like in the industry. And I'm like, you guys are a bunch of white people. What are you talking about? Like, and nobody, you know, and there was a Chinese American woman with me. There was, you know, a Mexican woman. There was a Persian woman that was with me. And we all were like looking at each other and silent, except for the one guy that kept saying, I'm not going to say, and
Wow.
really, if that teacher had just stopped and just listened,
Yeah.
he would have realized like, oh, you really just alienated like a third of your class.
Wow.
You know, like in this moment of like, I know so much, I know so much, I know so much. Sure, you may know so much, but you really don't know this, you know?
Yeah.
There's no way you don't know this. You don't. There's no way nobody can know everything. And so sometimes it's really just like, hey, stop, look. If you're talking, for example, if you're talking about like something that has to do with gender and it's only the dudes talking,
Mm-hmm.
and the women are looking uncomfortable, maybe clock that. If you're talking about race and it's only all the POC in the class are silent and looking at each other.
Clock that. Yeah. Yeah, right?
You know,
Yes.
so as individual teachers, that's something, you know, in terms of admin on the university, yeah.
I love that, Amber.
Whole
I
other
love that, Amber. And you said something, you know, we were checking in the other day, and you said there's something about this that is inherently uncomfortable, and we know we're in the right direction if we're uncomfortable. If this is comfortable, we're not having the conversation. It's not
Yeah,
it's not being had.
yeah,
And
if
I think that's it.
yeah, if everybody is comfortable, then that means the status quo if everybody's comfortable
Yeah.
at all times, that means the status quo is there. It's just like if you're working out, you know what I mean? You stress the
Yes.
muscle and then it heals and it's stronger, right? And I
Yeah.
think I think what I feel like and what I'm seeing other people of color saying is that, look, we've been doing this workout.
Yeah.
We've been stressing the muscle. We need other people to stress their muscles.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, in the example of that classroom with the white teacher is they did not want to be uncomfortable. And
No,
yeah.
yeah, they didn't mean, and it's not about meaning. They didn't
No.
mean to be.
No.
They didn't mean, you know. And it's like, yo, you cannot mean stuff and you know, we're people. We're fallible. Like, I get it.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, one of the blessings of, you know, the anti-racism movement that has just really picked up momentum in the past couple of years is that it's given white people in particular way more tools, you
Hmm.
know, way more tools. And I'll definitely admit that I have way more tools to
Hmm. Hmm.
cope with my massive blind spots, you
Yes.
know. And
Yes.
that I find is so incredibly empowering
Hmm.
because yeah, I get uncomfortable, but I feel like I can navigate through those moments.
Yeah, exactly. Being
Yeah.
uncomfortable is not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Yeah, where it's like, oh, I have tools to, like, really working on the tools to, like, oh, this is difficult. Okay, so then how do I work with that's just emotional intelligence
Yeah.
and, you know, being an adult, you know, like
Yeah. And our
yeah, that's
students need
that's that's great.
this. That's the most important thing I feel is like our students need this, our actors need this. Why? Because our audiences need this. Because
Hmm.
that is the ultimate goal is that we're storytellers and ultimately we are serving that, right? And
Right.
like you said, is that ultimately we're trying to tell better stories, right?
Hmm.
So if that's the purpose, then sign us all up, you know? What do we need to do? And
Hmm.
what we need to do is I need to end this Instagram live chat because I need to feed my baby. So, but this has been so refreshing and so fun, Amber. So
Yeah.
fun.
Thank you so much for having me, Sonia. It's great to see you.
Have a wonderful time at the award show.
Thank you.
And I can't wait. I'll be rooting for you. You'll have the Seven Pillars acting family rooting for you and the Actors Studio of Orange County rooting for you. And I hope some LSU School of Theater fam rooting for you. So a lot of people will be thinking of you and the cast of the morning show.
Yay. Thank you so much, Sonia. And have a lovely day. It's so good to see you. Thank you for
So good to see
having
you.
me.
Yeah, yes, this has been so fun. Okay, take care then.
Bye.
Bye bye. Let me figure out how to close this off. I don't know how to.